Testing. Testing. 1 2 1 2.
Let's do this. This is a podcast from the Bray Drugs Awareness Forum.
Hello, I'm Ger Rowe from Bray Youth Service, working on behalf of the Bray Drugs Awareness Forum. In this series of podcasts, we'll be taking a look at some of the local support agencies in Bray working in the general areas of drug awareness or addiction. In this edition, we're taking a look at the Wicklow homeless 5 Loaves charity organisation. Based on the main street of the town in the old Mormon church building, 5 Loaves provides services to the homeless and disadvantaged in Bray, as manager Tommy Gordon explains.
This is a podcast from the Bray Drugs Awareness Forum.
Tommy Gordon is my name, and I'm the manager here at WH5 Loaves. We're basically a service providing meals and share facilities, breakfast, dinner, takeaway food, and tents, sleeping equipment, and food basically for anybody that needs it. Our mission statement is to help the homeless and the disadvantaged. The organisation was founded on that basis 19 years ago when a group of local people saw individuals sleeping in doorways, so they started a soup run. The soup run turned into a little premises, a big premises actually, up at the back of the church. And when the property boom 2008, there again the rent went up on that, so they had to move, and they moved to a much smaller premises in Albert Walk, and were there for 8 years. I got involved 5 years ago on the board, and then I took on the job as manager, and the lease was up there. We were lucky enough to get the premises here on 52C Main Street. But it's much bigger, much more space. There's a smoking area outside, very secure. We have 16 security cameras, which we need. Total of 7 staff, 2 on a CE scheme, the others are full-time. But the main thing is to provide people with meals, and our initial mission statement was that anybody that wants it isn't refused. All we ask for is a name.
Although the 5 Loaves service is homelessness focused, Tommy says that dependence on drugs and alcohol is at the heart of the homeless issue.
The truth of it is, our service was set up to help the homeless and disadvantaged, and in fact I'd say that 95% of our service users, it's because of drugs and alcohol that they're here. They're homeless 90% of the time because of substance abuse. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's a lot of young people now. We have a minimum age entry of 18, but we see from 18 upwards people who are single, young, being thrown out of their family homes because they're causing trouble with drugs, or older people whose relationships have broken down and they end up either camping or looking for accommodation. I think when the organisation started, anecdotally speaking to people around at the beginning, that alcohol was a problem, but there's no doubt nowadays that drugs, etc., in the broad scheme of things, drugs are the number one issue that have people in here. So we have to be very careful. That's why we're so security conscious of watching people from a health and safety point of view, because they're taking drugs to come in here. Now obviously if they're in a bad way, we're very careful about whether we let them in or not, but we do know most of the clients. I will say that since the organisation started, when we put up a Christmas tree, we have a bauble for everyone that passed away, the service users, and I think that's going to reach 130 something this year. So you can really say, this service is here because of drugs.
Like most charitable organisations operating at present, the COVID crisis has hit the finance of 5 Loaves hard.
Where do I begin? As regards the service itself, thankfully it hasn't stopped us, but it's totally virtually eliminated our fundraising activities. I personally used to look after bingo every Sunday night in the Little Flower Hall, and that's an institution in this town, or it was. And we'd get 120 people on Sunday nights, and it was very enjoyable actually. The first few times I thought, what's it come to doing bingo on Sunday nights? But I have to say, a great group of people, brave people, the real, and very well-intentioned towards the organisation. And COVID has just knocked that on the head, and I don't see it ever getting back, unfortunately. Our charity shop, which is another main source for income, is up in the recycling centre, and just the rooms are so small that it's just not viable to have it open. You can only have one person in a room at a time. and you have to pay staff to be in it. So we're literally down to the people who would donate. There are people who make donations on a regular basis, people who come in with shopping, and we've been actually blessed with food donations, which is our number one. Obviously food is our the big area. So we've been, it's no coincidence that since COVID we actually had to get in an extra fridge freezer, which is great. But certainly financially it's a struggle for when you're just looking ahead, hoping that things will start to improve or open up again, you know. As regards to service users, the whole service, it's impacted on our people who are using the service, and that we've had to reduce the numbers. But it's really given us an overview that we hadn't seen before, in that a lot of people, in Albert Walk, we felt we were getting a reputation with hassle from neighbours and that. And with what we would discover on the limited camera system that we had down there, a lot of people were coming in from settled community, just coming in to have coffee, and they'd be more doing business than anything else. So with COVID, we had to cut out people who had a residential setting. That eliminated almost 50% of our service users straight away.
Tommy says that maintaining the Five Loaves Centre as a safe space for his clients is a priority focus.
As I said, 90% would be substance abuse, but we do get a percentage of mental health issues, and they're quite nervous. And if you get a few troublesome people, they don't come in, and that's not on. So we don't tolerate it. So you can be quite exposed here from the point of view that when people are barred for any reason, it gets pretty dodgy. I've had about 4 punctures in the last 6 weeks, all with the same type of brass screw, which cost me a few €100 in tyres. What I'll say in short is the people that really need the service are getting it now. You can see that. They're appreciative. We don't have any trouble, and there's no issues with substances being swapped, or, you know, they obviously have issues themselves. You can see it, some days they're worse than others, but they're certainly not abusing substances in here. Like, we're not finding tablet packets in toilets or anything like that.
So do you think that the service was being taken advantage of by certain people?
Oh, there's no doubt. It was becoming a coffee shop. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, yeah. I mean, we didn't. I mean, see, our broad, in the innocence of the foundation of the organisation, a mission statement saying homeless and disadvantaged. Disadvantaged covers a multitude. So, I mean, anybody with a substance abuse problem could come in. And that was fair enough. But there was a lot of dangerous situations that arose down below over the years. And it would have got worse here with the numbers that this place could hold. So, I mean, I don't see it'll ever go back to that again. But if there's anything positive at all out of COVID, it'll be that we've identified issues that were not helping the people that were coming here. Because, I mean, what's the point if somebody's coming in and then they know they can get stuff off somebody? And it's very hard. As I say, we have a very sophisticated camera system here, both at front desk and in the back offices, so we're watching all the time.
So just getting back to the unusual circumstances of the COVID situation for a minute, has it resulted in increased substance use?
I can't honestly say that it has. No, to be honest. I mean, it's a revolving door. You know, I mean, with the people that we know that well, I'm sure most of them are taking the same substances, they don't seem to be any worse or any better. You get some going into rehab for a while and coming out looking great, and then, you know yourself, they're back in the same environment. They're not the most vulnerable when they come out of rehab, because that's the most highly likely time for an overdose, when they start using again. But I couldn't honestly say that we've noticed that there's a higher level of usage because of COVID. No, definitely not. No.
In managing the Five Loaves Centre, Tommy has noticed the drastic effect that using drugs can have on family life.
Certainly the impact on families. I mean, I get phone calls from parents asking, have I seen such and such? Have they been in? And you know, it's tearing families apart. I've spoken to people outside, both here and then the old place. It's from all sectors of society. Let's be very clear about that. You know that, I'm sure. I mean, we've some in here who've been through college and very well educated, and but they've gone down that path, and I mean, I know that the effect on the families is very destructive. I mean, it's heartbreaking because they don't know where they are, they don't know where they're sleeping, and yet they couldn't continue on with the situation at home because you get money stolen, you get all sorts of chaos, people arriving on the door because of the debt being run up. It's the effect on families is very much, it's not, well, underrated and not really taken into account. I mean, you know, I know you have the equivalent of Al-Anon, isn't there? There's an organisation, but people really don't want to. There's a lot of shame. It's like poverty. I mean, we have a food bank, so the little service that we link up with people like MABS, and somebody will get a phone call, and it will be somebody that's from what you would call an ordinary middle class background who's just gone through a bad patch, and we'd make up a week's shopping for them and give it to them. But one aspect that I'd love to be able to get more at is I firmly believe there's a lot of hidden poverty, people who are just too proud to ask, and that's what really gets to me. I grew up in Dublin. I lived in Bray for 25 years, but I grew up in Dublin city centre, where I remember that Vincent de Paul, who provided magnificent service, like countrywide, they've been around. But the same people took advantage of it all the time. And there are people who needed it far worse, who are just too proud. And I think that exists since the crash of 2008. That situation has existed right across the board in Bray. And we've tried hard to get at that area because we're always very lucky with food donations. Yeah, it's a very frustrating part of it. I'd like to be able to do more on that, but coming back to substance abuse far outweighs the damage it does on families. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter how comfortable they are at home, and they may have good jobs and all that, but knowing that one of their children is out there and they don't know when they're going to get a call, they may have overdosed or something like that, you know. That's a horrific side of it.
Recently, there have been anecdotal reports of drug-related intimidation becoming an increasing threat. Is this something that the Five Loaves has experienced?
Not intimidation in the sense that because of us preventing drug dealing, because any time we've seen it, people are barred immediately, but generally because of the type of drugs that they tend to pass, particularly in the old premises, it's very, very hard to see it, even with cameras. You know, it can be just a hanky. It looks like a serviette going across the table, and you don't know. And I've had a lot of, I still do, as I said, I told you about my recent punctures, because I have a certain number of people barred who will never get back in, but that was because of violence. They were violent because of their condition due to substance abuse, and just can't tolerate it, because if the place can't be somewhere for a bit, to spend the day in a bit of tranquility and have food and heat, especially in the winter, and then one or two want to think they are running the place. No, it's not going to happen. So I get intimidation all the time, that from the gate there, shouting and threats and what have you. Yeah.
In terms of substance use, Tommy says that drugs have now overtaken alcohol as the major contributory factor to homelessness.
Alcohol is only an aperitif or a dessert now. I mean, not being flippant, but I mean, we stop people here, they often used to come in and hand up the tray of beer and put it in behind the counter. But drugs far outweigh the alcohol. I think it's reversed. Probably when the organisation started 18 years ago, the people that were sleeping in doorways, it was alcohol. But now it's drugs through and through. I mean, I think the alcohol, don't get me wrong, alcohol is a problem, it's big, but I think it's bigger behind closed doors in homes, because I mean, what they can buy trays of in these Lidls and Aldis for so cheap, there's a massive amount of what you'd call functioning alcoholism, I would think. But from our point of view, no. There's probably, out of the people that come in here, 2 who would have alcohol problems, and that's it. They don't touch drugs. Maybe 2, 3. It's nothing.
So what particular drug do you think causes the most problems?
Oh, there's no doubt heroin is the number one. You know, you can go a certain way. I mean, we've people who smoke various products. The garden there was even tempting for a while until we got the smell drifting in. So I mean, we had to stop that. But I mean, heroin is definitely the killer. I mean, once that route's gone down, and people go even trying to stop going on a methadone program. Sure, it's only it's a heroin substitute, and whatever dosage, I think sometimes people are put on it too quick. They take it as an alternative, but then they're topping up with benzos and other stuff. And I mean, what I see in circulation and what I've seen and what I know, and I know it goes on, is the prescription, the illegal prescription drugs, Lycra, all of these, sleeping tablets, benzos of all descriptions, and a lot of generic stuff that's been brought in, obviously, in the internet. I mean, we used to not joke, but we'd be watching for it down below in Albert Walk because we were beside the train station. There used to be a weekly run into town, and we'd be chock-a-block that day because someone would be arriving back to buy the tablets for a €5 or €10 tray in Dublin, would be selling them for 20 here.
So, are there enough support services available in Bray to meet the various challenges that you see?
Well, there seems to be, from the point of view of the people who are abusing the substances, there's enough. I mean, you've got BCAT, which provides a very good service, which I think a lot of ours would be going over to now. That we've restricted, but they're restricted in their space as well. And I mean, their key workers come in here. It's always been a tradition that we have key workers from BCAT coming in, following their clients around the town, and my heart goes out to them. You know, it's a thankless job. That side of it, I don't know how you can do much better. But I mean, certainly as regards the service for families, I think there's nothing there. It's a bit like the poverty aspect. I think people are ashamed. It's sweep it under the carpet type of thing, you know, they're afraid, and that's how they end up being kicked out of home. No, I'm not saying because of shame, it's because they're causing trouble with their other siblings or what have you, but there definitely seems to be a more full-on awareness and campaign to get people to come forward in some shape or form. Maybe in the way that MABs do their business, which I think is very good and confidential and people trust it. But it's like everything else, there's a stigma attached to it. A stigma attached to anything that touches a family regarding substance abuse. So certainly I think that there is a need, because the trauma that people go through, families, it's horrible.
The Simon community is one of the sector-associated agencies that Five Loaves has a close working relationship with.
We have a brilliant association with Simon because they obviously specialise in housing, and they're a national organisation, and their Wicklow representation on the Wicklow housing thing. So in fact, one of their team comes up here for a sort of a weekly clinic. So anybody that we can slot into the list to get onto. The people from the night shelter that they run come up here for their meals every day. We've a great association with them, and they'll even refer people that come in from outside the area to link in with their services in Dublin. So Simon have been brilliant, brilliant. We have an excellent relation with them, I have to say. But they're again, they've got the backing. They're a national organisation, you know.
One aspect of operating from Bray that Five Loaves is very grateful for is the high level of community support received.
There's a great community spirit in this town, and there's a great willingness to help when the need is there. There's no doubt. It's a fantastic town for a community its size. I mean, the support we get, and we're a tiny little cog, but I mean the support, and we get old ladies arriving there at the gate with a bag of shopping, you know, weekly. I mean, it's, you know, we lost some of our regular bingo clients passed away in the last week. Really compassionate. It's one of the aspects of this job that's actually, at my age and working experience, it's blown me away, to be honest, how good people are. People tend to focus on the negative, and, you know, there's no term I hate worse than the term junkie. I think it's the most derogatory to use. But the people are great if it's harnessed in the right way. I think what's wrong at the moment is that all of the different organisations, it's all too, I mean, as I say, I could be nearly every day of the week at meetings. I think it all needs to be focused down. And as I've said to you, we're dealing with the homeless, but the homelessness is caused by drugs.
While working at the Five Loaves Centre, Tommy has come to the opinion that the way we deal with victims of substance abuse needs to be changed.
I mean, arresting people and throwing them in jail, picking them up is like trying to sweep. You might as well be trying to sweep back the tide. They have to find some other way. There has to be another way on the bigger picture, or it'll always. It's just a continuing, and it's going to get worse, because for everyone they put in jail because of the attractive lifestyle, there's 10 more waiting to take their place. You see them with fancy cars driving around. It's just there has to be a much deeper look at it from a legislation point of view. And I know that you read in the newspapers about all of this cab and all that, doing that at the top, but on the smaller level, then the small little groups mushrooming up all over the place, keeping people supplied because of demand there. So I think it needs to be much more focused. But there is a gap, definitely, for focusing on the families of. I think to help them understand it, because I've seen it in families where there might be 4 or 5 siblings. One is a bad case of substance abuse. 2 of the siblings have nothing but anger and no empathy at all, and maybe you might get one who understands that it is an actual illness. I mean, it's I go out to schools quite a bit talking about our 5 Loaves schools, and it always ends up back to the subject of drugs, because I see young people in front of me and I know what they're facing and what they've probably dabbled in already, and I stress to them that it's a one-way path. It's either death, or total. I mean, a portion of our clientele would have mental health issues that have come as a direct result of drug abuse, and there's no going back. I mean, you're talking schizophrenia and these type of things that there is no cure for. It's permanent medication which they don't inevitably take, so they're in and out of hospitals as well.
Tommy says that winter is the most challenging time for the 5 Loaves service. Unfortunately, it's every winter.
There's people going to be sleeping through this winter on Bray Head in tents again, and we've people from every nationality. We've had American, English, Scottish, Polish, Romanian, Lithuanian. It's become because of the nature of the country in Europe for the last number of years. Now you've got every nationality.
But despite the ongoing challenges of running his service, Tommy still thinks that he's lucky to be operating in Bray.
That a community this size, probably 30,000, 40,000 now population, supports so many organisations in the way it does. I think it's unique.
The 5 Loaves Homeless Service is located at 52C Main Street, Bray, beside the Credit Union. You can visit their website at wh5loaves.com. We'd like to thank Service Manager Tommy Gordon for his time and contribution to this podcast series. This episode was produced by Danielle O'Brien of Bray Youth Service on behalf of the Bray Drugs Awareness Forum.
This is a podcast from the Bray Drugs Awareness Forum.